Hello and welcome, my name is Interjection and this is my 23rd Age of Empires 3 1v1 commentary. Now this is a first person commentary, meaning that we will be watching me play, and I'm hoping to take you inside the game a little bit more by explaining exactly what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and what I hope to achieve from it. But first of all, the match is British versus French. I'll be playing British, as you can see by the flag on my town centre, and we're fighting on the map Yukon. Now, the moment the game starts, I'm going to take control of my settlers and collect those food crates up straight away, get that first settler in production ASAP. But in my rush to get everything sorted at the beginning, I accidentally pressed the letter B on my keyboard, which is the hotkey for the town bell, which garrisons all of your settlers. Having done that will unfortunately slow down my advancement to the second age due to it causing a few moments of no food gathering. Never mind, but now the first building I'm going to throw down is a manor house. I need that because obviously soon I'll be at my population limit, but more importantly, when the manor is fully constructed, it will spawn me one free settler. And it'll do that because in Age of Empires 3, that is one of the British civilization bonuses. Now, I have a little bit of spare wood left over from my starting crates, and in addition to that, I have tasked a few settlers to collect some wood as well, just so I can get enough wood for a second building. Now, I could build a second manor with that wood and get another free settler, but I have instead decided to build a market, which is, of course, where I can exchange one of my resources for another. But the real motivation for a market is that it gives me access to the hunting dogs upgrade, which increases settler gather rates of food by 10%. That upgrade will cost me 50 coin, which I've collected from my crates, and 50 wood, which I'll have to gather myself. The moment I get that 50 wood, I'll put all of my settlers back onto food. I do not want to be wasting gather time on extra wood, which I just won't need. Now, I do think that building a market is worth it instead of a second manor on this map, because now that I have a market, I can use it later on in the game to quickly research other upgrades that it offers really early on, so that I can get my economy booming away. Now, my first shipment has become available, and I will be sending 3 settlers from my home city to help my colony grow, to get my economy going. They are on the way right now. This game, though, I haven't really done very much scouting around my base at all, and instead have moved my starting scout, called the Explorer, up to the left-hand side of the map. This is because we are playing on Yukon, and this is where the really big, beefy resource treasures are located for this map. In Age of Empires 3, a treasure is marked by a small white X on the minimap and will contain resources which can only be looted by your explorer or a settler. Usually, though, treasures are protected by treasure guardians, which you must kill before you can loot the treasures. And as you can see here, I'm in combat with 3 wolves for 90 food. Now, there's an imaginary circle around all treasures where if you go outside of that circle, the treasure guardians will run away from you and they will not attack you anymore. So I've walked my explorer outside of that circle so that the treasure guardians will run away. I'm going to do it again, and then I'm going to shoot them just as they're running away, and that wolf doesn't know where the shot came from because I'm outside of the circle. That oncoming wolf I'm going to try and kill with my crack shot, my explorer special ability, but I misclicked it and take a little bit more damage than I intended to from that wolf. And with that remaining wolf, I'm going to try and get my ranged shot in rather than my hand attack, because the ranged damage does more damage than the hand attack. And to do that, you just walk forward slightly and then shoot at it. Now, in addition to that 90 food treasure, I also found a 150 food treasure guarded by 2 polar bears. All of this extra food is going to help me age up to the colonial age significantly quicker. I've now got the age up in queue, it's researching right now, and I chose to age up with the Philosopher's Prince politician, who will grant me a crate of 500 food upon aging up. I've also just completed the gang saw upgrade at the market. It costs 100 food and will grant my settlers a 10% bonus to wood collection rate from trees. Now, as you can see here, I am building my second manor just so that I can claim another free settler, and I'm strategically positioning all of my manors, as well as my market, on the periphery of my town centre's line of sight. Now, when I reach the colonial age, all buildings will receive a line of sight increase, including my manors, and my manor placements will help extend my line of sight beyond my initial town centre so that I will more easily be able to spot any incoming military units from my opponent, which might be aiming to raid or kill my settlers. Now, as soon as I got the colonial age in queue at my town centre, I switched all of my settlers from food to wood so that I could build that second manor. And throughout the course of the game, I'm intending to manipulate the British civilization bonus by building way more manors than I really need, just for the free settlers. Obviously, I also get population from them, but I won't need all of that population. It's just the free settlers I want, really. But for now, I can only afford 1 manor because I also need to stockpile 200 wood so that I can construct a barracks in Age 2. so that I can train military units to protect my colony with. Now, because I am playing as the British, my opponent should be expecting me to be playing the way that I am, where I'm investing lots of resources into my economy. This is because the British can boom really well due to their free settlers that they can get from the obviously building the manor house. It just makes sense for the British to boom, really, because they can play more economically. Therefore, I'll be expecting some early pressure from my opponent, because since I've been investing into my economy, I won't be able to produce as much military as he can early on, at least until my investments start paying off later on in the game. So his early attacks could be quite damaging if done right, and perhaps if he gets a bit lucky, and perhaps if I don't play so well. They might set me back a fair amount if I'm not careful, although his initial attack does actually come a little bit later on than I expected. Anyway, in addition to the wood for the barracks, I also want to collect 125 wood and 125 coin, so that I can get that steel traps upgrade from the market the moment it becomes available to me in Age 2, which increases, that upgrade increases settler food gather rate from huntable animals by 20%. That is in addition to the 10% from the hunting dogs earlier, so I have 30% increase overall. I also need to collect wood and food for my units, though I aged up with food, as you can see here. So I am going to keep collecting lots of wood, because the units I want to train, longbow and pike, they cost food and wood, and I'll explain why I'm making them a little bit later on. Now, my second shipment was 700 wood, and my third home city shipment is about to become available to me, and it will be 600 wood. Now, with the first 700 wood, which I've collected all up now, and I've spent 200 of it on a second barracks there, I've also spent some of it on 2 more manors, which I've also built on the edge of my base for extra line of sight, just for the incoming raids. And that 700 would also help me train some longbowmen and some pikemen, because I spent lots of resources building my economy in the start of the game with the upgrades, a little bit slow to Age 2 because I got a market, etc. I need to make up for that now by shipping these resources to help me get that spam going. I got 5 longbowmen and 5 pikemen, with another 5 pikemen and 5 longbowmen about to be produced. So I now have 10 longbowmen and pikemen in total. Now, as you can see, I have 17 settlers on food and 5 on wood. The majority of my settlers are on food, and my 600 wood shipment is about to arrive as well. I don't need so many on wood because I've got lots of wood at my town centre in that crate, which I'm going to collect up, and that's going to build me 2 more manors and continue my longbowmen and my pikemen spam. Back to the game, you can see my opponent has sent in 5 musketeers. I don't really think that was his first batch, because it's been quite a while now. I imagine he has much more than 1 batch of 5 musketeers, but they were coming in. Perhaps they were trying to find a settler which they could shoot dead and, you know, get some raids on me. I'm now building some more manors out over here, 2 more manors with that 600 wood, as I said. Again, gonna build those on the periphery of my base to expand my line of sight and hopefully see any incoming raids before they get there. Right now, though, I can't throw down too many manors because I want to keep making military units. I really am concerned that, you know, he'll have a nice mass to defeat me with that can do some damage, so I really need to keep the military production up. Once I feel that I'm safe, I can then send 5 settlers. That's going to be my next shipment. I've got a shipment available right now. Here we go, 5 settlers, and that's one of the nice boomy shipments I'm going to be sending. And I'm just going to talk about these manors here. They are quite far away from my base. They are very easy to kill for my opponent, but I find it unlikely that they would want to kill the manors, because British can only build 20 manors. All civilizations can only build 20 houses. So if he destroys that manor, then I can build another one later on in the game and get a free settler. You can't delete your own manors when you're playing as British. At my barracks now, though, I've just created 4 pikemen. Unfortunately, it was only 2 from each barracks because I have just got the log flume upgrade in queue. That is quite an expensive upgrade, and that took away all of my food there, and leaving me with surplus wood, which I've just built a manor with. Now that the 5 settler shipment has arrived, I'm just going to be building a few manors here and there when I can spare the wood. Obviously, I now no longer have any wood shipments to send. I have to build manors and train units off entirely my own back. Cannot be supplemented by any more wood. Although I do have the log flume market upgrade just being completed. Obviously, that is a 20% bonus to wood collection rate. It costs 150 food and 250 coin. That upgrade is in addition to the gang store upgrade, which I got earlier, so I now have a 30% increase on wood cutting overall. The next upgrade for wood cutting is in the Fortress Age, so I won't be getting that anytime soon, but I can send exotic hardwoods, which is an upgrade from the home city, which is 20% as well, so I'd have 50% overall if I were to get that. And in this game, that is going to be my next shipment. My next shipment is about to become available, and I will be sending exotic hardwoods. Now, in a team game, I would definitely recommend exotic hardwoods because you are usually only required to make 1 unit. And as you can see right now, I have 20 settlers on wood thereabout. Therefore, for every 5 settlers I have, that is the equivalent of 1 settler. So when 20 settlers are tasked to collect wood, the exotic hardwoods upgrade is the equivalent of 4 settlers. And then each settler I have tasked to wood in the future past 20 is just an improvement on that. However, this logic assumes that you will always have at least 20 settlers gathering wood, and in a 1v1 that isn't very likely, because at some point you probably will retask your wood settlers to collect coin so that you can either age up or make cavalry or skirmishers or musketeers or whatever. Not that I'll be making skirmishers as the British. The British cannot train skirmishers. Anyway, there is a fight going on right here. Let's get stuck into the analysis. I'm going to be keeping my pikemen back because I do not want them to take many shots at all, and I'm only going to bring them forward to protect my longbowmen from the cavalry. You can see the musketeers have gone into hand combat because my longbowmen resist 30% of all range damage, therefore they resist 0% of hand damage, and those musketeers obviously in hand mode would do more damage, but I don't think it's particularly effective. I think I overreacted a little bit and I walked I walked my longbowmen away. Either way though, his putting his musketeers into hand combat made me put my pikemen in between my longbowmen and the musketeers so that the musketeers could not get into hand combat with my longbowmen. Though I don't think that was a very good use of my pikemen. I think I overreacted, as I said. I should have used my pikemen to keep them back and protect myself from cavalry. There was cavalry attacking my longbowmen and it didn't go very well at all. As you can see here though, those last few musketeers are just gonna get destroyed by my longbowmen there. But now I do not have any pikemen, and I'm definitely gonna have to train some more of them, because if he trains it at just a few cavalry units, I would lose all of my longbowmen. Longbowmen are very vulnerable to cavalry. I now have the spice trade home city shipment being sent. This is a 20% bonus to hunting, so food collection rates going around, and that same logic as the exotic hardwoods here. It's a 20% upgrade to food, therefore having 20 settlers gathering food, it would be the equivalent of 4 settlers, but obviously I'm going to have more than 20 settlers gathering food, about 25, so that really is better than 4 settlers. Right now though, I've just trained 10 more pikemen, as I say, need to replace my pikemen quickly so that I don't get absolutely destroyed by cavalry, and it is almost the 12-minute mark, and I have a 45 settler economy with 50% improvements both to hunting and to wood collecting. That is 10% from the Age 1 market upgrades, 20% from the Age 2 market upgrades, and another 20% from my home city upgrades. Now, since my entire economy is on either food or wood, and both of those resources are upgraded by 50%, that is in theory the equivalent of 22.5 more settlers. Therefore, you could argue I have a 67.5 settler economy, almost 70 settlers, at what was just 12 minutes into the game. Now, considering that I might have lost 1 or 2 settlers, I still have 7 more manors left that I can build, and a 4 settler shipment which I can send from my home city, and obviously I'll still be maintaining constant settler production from my town centre as well. I think this really does highlight the British's ability to boom, and yet they can just defend and keep up with regards to military like any other civilization. Now here is the second large military contact in the game. I brought up my pikemen right into Blue's cavalry, bringing their ×5 damage multiplier versus cavalry to bear, and at the same time I'm trying to get my pikemen in the way of his cavalry. I want to get my pikemen in between my longbow and his cavalry to act as a barrier to protect the longbowmen from the cavalry hand attack. I certainly had enough pikemen to do that, but the problem was not all of them were in the fight when it started, since I had to split them around the map to protect my herds from raids, and some of them had just popped out of the barracks, etc., and they all had to walk over to the fight. At the same time, though, I should have been using my longbowmen, telling them to target the musketeers, because that is what they counter, but I just wasn't doing that, and I think that's what really lost me the fight there. In my previous commentary, there was a comment on the YouTube video discussing the effectiveness of longbowman micro, and the problem with it is that each time you tell a longbowman to attack something, it does a setup animation before it attacks that unit. It pulls back its bow, and that isn't actually doing the attack is delayed. But if you leave the longbowman to just attack whatever they want, they just pump out shot after shot after shot, and to be honest, whilst that is true, I still think I should have at least tried to kill some musketeers, since cavalry resist 20% of ranged damage, and if that wasn't enough on the Asian Dynasty's longbowman, longbowmen actually have a 0.8 multiplier versus cavalry, so they're actually doing 40% less damage to cavalry. So it's definitely a lot more cost effective to counter musketeers with the longbowman shots rather than the cavalry. And obviously, since the closest thing to the longbowman was the cavalry, that is what they were attacking. Now, just before blue starts to push my base, let's recap what home city shipments I have received since the second fight. I sent 700 coin with the intention of quickly massing some cavalry to assist me in the protecting of my base and my economy. As you can see, I throw down some stables there to train them from. And I also sent 4 settlers for some strange reason. Thinking about it now, a better choice of shipment would definitely have been the 6 longbowmen and then the 700 coin, because I really needed the military units to help defend. Really, I shouldn't have sent any settlers whilst being pushed, especially since my opponent had just defeated my army and has the military advantage over me. Anyway, I sent Minutemen to help defend my settlers there, and in Age of Empires 3, every town centre has a one-time special ability where it can spawn a muster of 6 units for just 150 food and 150 coin. Now, those units are called Minutemen, often abbreviated to just MM, and are extremely strong for how little they cost. Most players will choose not to fight Minutemen because, as the name suggests, Minutemen only really last for about a minute, since from the moment of creation their hit points rapidly decrease over time until they just have 1 hit point left. So obviously it would be best to wait for the HP to decrease before actually fighting Minutemen, but I think my opponent really had the opportunity to kill a ton of settlers when I spawned my Minutemen, and I don't think he wanted to give up that opportunity very easily. I actually lost a whole ton of settlers just to one stupid mistake. I ran out of huntable animals around my base and was trying to send those settlers across the river to collect food there, but unfortunately my opponent saw that. I knew that he saw it. I saw that he saw it, so really I should have sent my settlers straight back into the town centre to avoid the deaths which happened there. That probably was my biggest mistake of the game so far. And as you can see here right now, I have just been raided as well. We all knew this was going to happen, and this kind of problem can just so easily be negated by just building an outpost on top of a herd to garrison your settlers in. Fortunately, I had another outpost not too far away, which I built on a different herd for the exact same purpose, but really I ought to have built another one as well on that herd that I was being raided at, especially considering that a settler takes 25 seconds to train and that I've upgraded them so much. And since they take 25 seconds to train, you could argue that for each one I lose, my economy is 25 seconds behind my opponent's. Now, at this point in the game, let's take a look at the score. I have 150 score points and my opponent has 131, so I'm 20 score in the lead, even though that I lost the second fight and so many of my settlers, oh my god. At this point, I could still win the game if everything goes perfectly, but if I hadn't lost all of those settlers, then my economy would definitely be well ahead of my opponent's, and I'd just literally be able to outmass him. But let's take a look at the French as a civilization. They can also boom really well if they choose to. That is what he's done, except the difference between a French boom and a British boom is whilst both will still go for fast market upgrades, the French might also grab some trading posts and upgrade them. You might have noticed the trading route has literally just been upgraded, so it would be well worth me throwing down some trading posts as well to capitalise on his upgrade. Anyway, the French boom comes to fruition much sooner than the British. The difference between the booms is that I have to build manors, which cost 135 wood, so my free settlers aren't actually free at all. For all intents and purposes, they actually cost 135 wood per settler, which is actually has quite a long payback period. But all the French player needs to do is just train and ship his Carrera de Bois, which of course are the French settler unit for gathering, and they are much more efficient gatherers than the standard settlers. For the entire game, our scores have actually been very even, and he chose to push his advantage just as his boom came to fruition, and whilst mine was still in the payback period. If he left it any longer, then perhaps I would win, because the longer he left it, the more he would be squandering his early advantage, and I think he made very good use of his early advantage because he was able to kill so many settlers. My opponent is now pushing, and I'm halfway to the fortress age. I am now in the worst possible situation since I've invested 1,200 food and 1,000 coin into an upgrade that will not help me repel the pressure he is applying. I've also lost a ton of settlers. I think really I should have just massed military units in the brief moment of peace we had, but I chose to go to Age 3, mainly so I could get access to falconets, which are obviously cannons, and gain access to the arsenal, that's an armory for you Age of Empires 2 fans, and gain access to the more powerful Age 3 military home city shipments. Mainly I wanted the cannons because they cost large amounts of coin and I'm running out of food. Whilst I have no food, there is still an abundance of coin for me to take advantage of. so cannons would be a nice unit to make. At least that was what I was thinking at the time in the game. The only problem with that logic is that I have not upgraded my coin gathering in the same way that I have upgraded my food gathering. Now, up until this moment in the game, despite going to age 3, I definitely think I stood a very good chance of repelling my opponent's military yet again. You will see why later on. But simply because my opponent knew my army wasn't in my base, and the fact that he sent his units across the river, possibly to find my settlers, but possibly to find my military as well, he is able to destroy my army before I am ready to fight. Of course, you should never fight a fight that you cannot win. You should always run away if you know you are horribly going to lose all of your units. But here I have no choice but to fight it. There was nowhere for my units to run to, and his cavalry would just chase me down if I chose to run. Now, I think I would have been able to repel his army had I been able to protect those units and had those units not been lost. As you can see in my base, I've constructed 2 outposts with the spare wood that I had available to me, the wood that I didn't need. This is where I was expecting him to pressure me, and this is where I should have put my military units. I also aged up to the Fortress Age with the Adventurer Politician, who grants me 7 Longbowmen, which I would have added to my existing mass of units, and hopefully I would be able to avoid conflict until my 10 Jaeger mercenaries from the home city, costing 1,000 coin, had arrived. Now, Jaegers are extremely powerful units. For all intents and purposes, they are godlike skirmishers, meaning they are very good at countering heavy infantry, such as my opponent's musketeers. But at the same time, they're still very vulnerable to cavalry, meaning I would have to protect them in a similar way to the longbowmen earlier. If I still had all of my military units, in addition to these Jaegers, with the cover from 2 outposts and town centre fire in my base, then I definitely think I stood an excellent chance of repelling blue out. But because I lost my entire military mass of units, the game is now over and I should resign, but I want to pop out my mercenaries just to show my opponent what I was planning so he knows what I'm trying to do. It's just a little bit less embarrassing for me that way. And it is always epic to see the final battle, the final showdown which decides the game. Here we go though. I'm about to pop my Jaegers, going to move them away from my opponent's cavalry and protect them with my musketeers, though I do have to delete the market because it gets in the way of my unit positioning. But that is the end of the game. Thank you very much for watching, no matter which game you play, whether it is Age of Empires 2, Age of Empires 3, Age of Empires Online, or even StarCraft 2. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please show it some love, give it a like. These commentaries can take a lot longer than you might expect to make, but it is the summertime in the UK, so I'll be making plenty more. Remember to subscribe if you would like to watch them as well. Thanks again, guys. My name is Interjection, and I am from the Nation of Warriors.